we are back.
Welcome to part two.
Part two. Woo! So most recently, the Bears just took Xavier Watts, which now puts it for my pick at 42. Um, and we had them going where in the first round?
I believe it was Warren. Yeah.
Tyler Ward. So that leaves the door open for any tackle in which that we feel should be taken here. Let's see what the tackle board looks like.
I mean, it's very slim.
It is slim pickings. Um, I'm gonna kind of go with the hot name here. The name that is kind of risen up draft boards as of the last week or so, and a guy that I am really a big fan of. Again, I think they need help along the trenches. And Ursery's been a name that's been catching fire.
I agree with you. The only thing I'll ask you, because you made both Jets picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather? This is like just what you have to do with these exercises. Would you rather have Membu at 7, and your pick of Arroyo or Mason Taylor, or this Ursery at 42 and Warren at 7?
Because of the drop off between the tackles,
Mm-hmm.
probably Membu and Arroyo, because that's who my pick would have been there.
That's exactly what I wanted, because that encapsulates this draft perfectly. Because Warren and Loveland are top, they're top 12 players for me. So, like, again, they're great players and they're going to be productive players, but it's the justification of taking a tight end in the first round, especially when you're a team like the Jets who have a real big tackle need. So it's fascinating to, you have to weigh all your options and kind of go as you may. But the Niners, this one's pretty easy for me. If you feel comfortable with the medicals, I think Benjamin Morrison's the best corner on the board. He gives you that inside-outside versatility. I think because of his size, he's not the longest player. I think you could play him at nickel, but I think he's got the cover skills to play on the outside, and you can see if that works. They lose Trevarius Ward, of course, so yeah.
Yes, no, I agree. It's he really is the best corner available if you think that his medicals are going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, it's what I said at the time of taking T-Mac, because that's what he prefers to go by. At the time of making T-Mac or whatever wide receiver would have been, was this is a deep running back class. So I feel more comfortable taking the wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
and then looping back around and get that running back within the second round. And for me, it is clearly Caleb Johnson. I know some people, push for Travion Henderson, which I completely get and understand that. But I think Caleb Johnson has the better tool set to be an every down running back compared to Henderson.
Yep. Yep. Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys would be leaving the first 44 picks with my number 26 overall player and my number 5 overall player at very impactful points of their offense. They're really hitting a head-on collision with, skill position players. They need to keep them in the room. Then you get to the Colts. I'm going to bring up our lads for myself again and just kind of talk myself through the pick, because I think that's what we have to do with these second-round picks. I mentioned they kind of have a center and guard little, it's coming to a collision, but Tanner Bortolini out of Wisconsin they took last year, Matt Conglaves out of Pittsburgh they drafted last year, and those guys played sizable, time. So I think there's a world where they continue to just keep pushing down the pike with those guys. Receiver, no. I think you could get another, like, even with the amount of, capital they've spent, I think you could get another edge rusher in here. There's probably not a guy on the board that I would, justify. Maybe, yeah, Princely I would justify, but probably not the pick I'm going to make. And then it's all about how you feel about Juju Brents. Juju Brents is going to be like a starting outside corner, according to our lads on this. You bring in Ward, you bring in Cam Bynum. They even signed Corey Ballantyne as like another, a dime player for them because they already have Kenny Moore. But like, oh man, this is a weird team because again, this adds to the, they got to win kind of mentality. Uh, you just take premium position, um, kind of lean into that. I'm looking at the board. There's not really anybody that I'm in love with. I think you get another. I think Az Thomas is a good pick here, but then again, just going over it. I think weighing my options, I'm just gonna take the premium edge player. I think Umami Ellen is a good enough player to take at 45. Matches up with my board pretty well. He's another one of those guys come out of the toy, the toy packaging right out of the box. He's just going to be a good pass rusher. Is he maybe a capped out player? Could be, but I think his pass rush bag right out of the gate is going to be a plus.
Yes. One question for you. Why
Mm-hmm.
why do you hate me and insist on taking my players one pick in front of the selection that I would
I
have
think because I hit the
taken?
Falcons.
Uh,
I think it just all in lines together.
yes, no, that's Princely's the player that was like, yes, he's there, yes, he's there, he's gonna make it, he's gonna make it, and he didn't. But I still will stick at that position because they do desperately, desperately need to
Mm-hmm.
do it. And if I'm looking at the board, there's by far and away, I think, a player that is better than everyone else. I know, Braden Swinson is everyone's darling, but that can't do it for me. It's Landon Jackson, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very big, big individual. If you can piece it together, yeah, 6'7", 280, which is ridiculous. And he can kick in on like NASCAR packages and even go and play defensive tackle for them if they really need him to, and just try to stir up that edge position that is such a big need for them.
Yeah, I mean it's just getting bodies in the room. They did this. They kind of aggregated it last year. They took Rook Rororo, Braylon Trice. I think he had an ACL injury. Brandon
Yeah,
Dorless. So like, I, I don't know how much they like those guys. It's like,
yeah,
how much are they invested in those guys being long term players for them to take interior line, and that's why I didn't take one in the first round. But no, Landon Jackson here, little rich for me, but I completely get the justification. Then you get to the Cardinals. Um, we took who do we take?
edge.
We took
Shamar.
Shamar Stewart, so defensive line kind of under wraps. Uh, Sean Murphy Bunting, Garrett Williams, Max Melton, who they took pretty early last year, and Elijah Jones, and Adrian Taylor Demerson. So I mean, they really invested in the secondary last draft that it doesn't make me believe that they're going to go head in there. But I'm gonna go receiver. I'm gonna go receiver here. I think Royals is maybe this is a little early for some, but Royals is my 48th player, and this is pick what 47. I think it gives you a great complement in the middle of the field with Marv on the outside and Michael Wilson as your Z. I think this is a perfect complement and well worth the price here at 47.
Absolutely. For those who don't know Jalen Royals, they're going to be a little shocked by that, but
Mm-hmm.
we are a Jalen Royals podcast.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing too. I think you get into that. I think this is a tiered off draft. I think once you get into, once you get, it's hard to look at a board, but like my board specifically, once you get into like player 15 and on to like the 30s, I don't see a much huge difference, and I think it's just tiered off. I think Daniel Jeremiah says it best. It's a starters draft.
absolutely. Um, well, and speaking of that, corner is such a big need for the Dolphins.
Yep.
Even if they keep
Yep.
Jalen Ramsey at this point, Storm Duck is I like Storm Duck. He was fun,
Yep.
but Storm Duck should not be a starting corner. And Trey Amos is staring me right at the face. I'm gonna go Trey Amos.
Yep. Yep. All right, then we get to Cincinnati. I think we again like Cincinnati. I think bringing in Al Golden from Notre Dame. I think there is a real message behind them, and that's they just want to bring in as much young defensive talent as they possibly can, and yeah, I think this is going to make you multiple in the pass game. It gives you another flavor of corner. I think Az Thomas is a perfect player to put alongside a guy like DJ Turner who can fly, alongside a guy like Cam Taylor Britt, who's played a lot of football. I will not give up on Jordan Battle, so uh, just throw another guy at the situation and see how it works.
Yes. Despite his long speed concerns.
Yeah,
I don't know. But Seahawks at pick 50.
this was Zabel.
Zabel, yes. We talked about going Starks. Do you prefer Starks and Jonah over Zabel and whoever you're going to take here? Probably. But God, just the way that the board has kind of fallen in the way it's worked out here. I do think I'm going to go Braden Swinson here. Edge is a position of need for them.
Okay.
And there's no players that really stand out to me that are like left on the board. That's like
would you consider Milrow here?
I don't. I think it would be in consideration, especially with the way that the contract broke down for Sam Darnold. You know what? I like the way you're thinking. Let's do Jalen Milrow.
Yes, fireworks. Let's go. I love it, love it, love it. Just wanted to lob that in there. Lob a little grenade in there, like John Morant. So the reason you took this pick, but the reason you took Luther Burden is because you think like me. And this running back class is awesome. And there's going to be one at 51 you can get. And there ended up being one at 51. That is perfect in Trevian Henderson out of Ohio State. I think mixing him in with Sean Payton, I think he can, maybe not the exact same skill set, but just being an explosive play threat reminds me of what Reggie Bush was able to do on that Super Bowl team. Not him as a prospect, but being that kind of thunder and lightning with a guy like Pierre Thomas. Trevian Henderson has a lot of the skill sets that Reggie Bush have in the explosive play category. So getting that with my guy, Audric Estime, come on, man. Let's do it.
It'd be so much fun. Well, this is pretty easy for me at 52. I almost selected him at 50. So
yep.
Braden, give me Braden Swinson here instead. Yeah. Again, for all of the same reasons that I almost took him at 50. So.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you again doing that, but like with how thin center is, like, I just want to know where Jared Wilson goes. Is this a round 2 player?
Well, they just took Gray Zabel though.
I'm just saying in general. Okay. I project Zabel as a guard though. I'll be honest. I think there is center flexibility, but I project him as. Then we get into. I think this is corner. This has got to be corner. I mean, Hairston is still around. I think you have to take Hairston. I don't know where this guy's going to go. This is the one guy I can't pin down because he's my 49th player. I know that's probably too low by the NFL standards. He ran 4.2. So, of course, someone is going to make an excuse in a draft room to pick him. I just don't know who that team is going to be, and I wouldn't, with what he is, I think this is a good spot for him in early to mid-50s.
Yes, that's where I had him in terms of the way we stacked our DBs. This is much more of the area I'd be okay with rather than back end of round 1. Yeah. So we went Rebel here with 54. Funny because the monologue that we had about drafting wide receiver twos. But I do think you have to continue to just take throws at the dartboard
Mm-hmm.
until you hopefully find something. Um, I'm gonna take my guy. I can't not take him. It's gonna be Alec. I even if he doesn't turn into like this amazing guy, I think he can at least partially fill in that Christian Watson role if you let him walk in free
Yep.
agency.
Yep. That's exactly my thought. Is that, well, I mean, Watson, what, he had the ACL injury in the last week of the year,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to assume pupless at least. So if Ayumanor comes along in a good process, he's a young enough player, redshirt sophomore, I believe. If he comes along at a good rate, he could instantly take over Watson, and you shove Watson to the side. But yeah, I think Aluminer at 54 is a pretty good spot for him. The Chargers, we took, of course, Kenny Grant. I'm, of course, going to take Mason Taylor. Uh, Pretty easily, and you're probably asking, Ben, you have Arroyo ranked higher. I do, but I don't think Arroyo is the Harbaugh type of player. So I'm taking Mason Taylor just because the longevity, family lines, and just his ability in the blocking game, I think it gives him a more suitable and traditional tight end, and I think that's what Harbaugh is going to want rather than Arroyo.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's as a Michigan fan, I
Yeah.
completely make and you get to again it's the tiers. If you view these guys similarly,
Hmm.
take the guy that's gonna fit your system the best.
Yep.
So
And it's not like
um
I have Arroyo as my player 40 and Mason Taylor 52.
yeah.
So it's
So
good range.
yes. So in terms of the Bills, man, it's we early on in the process. Again, I don't think he makes it that far. We kept on doing the Malachi Starks stuff here.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously Malachi Starks was not the pick. He didn't make it there. Tyreek Williams made sense. We're gonna stick in for the same reason that we would take Malachi Starks at pick 30. I will be taking Kevin Winston Jr. here.
Mm.
Again, I think he would be in that conversation right up there with him. Um, he was hurt. Obviously, the ACL was the big thing for him, but
Yep.
they just don't have safeties that prevent me from drafting a guy that I think is clearly the best available at this point.
Yeah, I mean they re-signed Rapp and Hamlin. They of course drafted Cole Bishop. I don't think it's as big of a need as, you know, previously constructed early when we did these mocks because those guys were free agents. But yeah, I could see Winston. Winston's my 50th player. So again, like you're taking, it's again good value. Um, but then we get to the Panthers. I mean, let's look at the Panthers now. Um, is this just more, help for Bryce Young? I know they did that song and dance very heavily last year. Um, taking Leggett. I don't think Leggett stops you from anything. Ike Ekwonu coming up soon. Uh, do you focus on, is there a tackle on the board? Probably not. They really beefed up the interior that I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that the interior of the defensive line. They signed Deshaun Wharton from Kansas City and Bobby Brown from the Rams. So overall, there's not really. No, there is a position in need. You need a player on the opposite side. You need the player on the opposite side of J.C. Horn,
JC Horn.
and that's Jacob Parrish. I said I wanted to do this. I said I wanted to take this guy. They also don't have a nickel. Charles Smith Wade out of Washington State, I believe, last year. He's their current nickel. Like, this is their defensive back. Like, they signed Trayvon Merrick, but it's J.C. Horn, Caleb Evans, Mike Jackson from Seattle, and Charles Smith Wade. This team is in dire need of uh, defensive backs, and I think Parrish is one of those guys that he's a tone setter defensive back.
Yeah.
And he would be my next best defensive player on the board. So yeah.
Well, and again, I think even if you don't think he plays that outside. I think he can play inside and be
Yeah.
just fine.
You need bodies. Just
Um,
looking at that, looking at the depth chart, you just need bodies.
yes, it's bad how they've neglected that. Um,
I immediately clicked receiver
where
because
did
we
we
took a
have?
tackle, but if
Yes,
there's a position you want to
but
see,
there's not. The other position, who did they sign a guard in free agency? Because part of me says continue to shore that up because it was such a big issue.
I mean,
Um,
they signed Lincoln
Houston,
Tomlinson on that minimum. They traded for Ed Ingram. Like
yeah,
what they've done at the, I truly
trying to
believe they're
money
just trying to
ball it up.
moneyball this thing. I think they
Yes,
got, you get your tackle in the first round here with Connerly. I think they want to get one rookie and then
yeah, yeah. Take me back over to the wide receiver board here.
okay. Because I love their secondary. Their secondary needs no work.
No,
Ooh, there's a guy I would, and maybe not.
where's your head at here?
I lean, looking at interior, I kind of lean Alf Collins, but the one that kind of made me excited was Carson Schlesinger, just being a run and hit player. But again, like Alshire, Henry To'oTo'o, they signed EJ Speed, Christian Ayers. They don't really
Yeah,
have a need on
they don't
anybody on the
need
defensive.
that. Yeah,
They don't on the defensive side of the ball. You can maybe throw another edge rusher if you want, but you're taking a third edge rusher in the 50s? Probably not.
yeah.
So I
You
think
don't want to
receiver
do
has to be the
that.
part. Yeah.
I think it does have to be the part, and it's so tough for me because
Hmm.
I want to do Trey here, but does Trey's skill set clash too
Just
much with
overlap.
what you
Yeah.
already have with Nico? Uh I'm not the
Not really. I mean, you signed. They signed Christian Kirk, so it's not like they're in dire need of a Restrepo type, which he's still at 75 here.
which is ridiculous. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna revert back to my rankings on these guys, and for me,
Yeah.
that's Trey Harris. I know
Yeah.
people like Kyle. I can't get there. Still can't get there. Um, and if anyone's gonna get the best out of him, it's gonna be C.J. Stroud.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking at it, I have Noel at 55. I know we don't see eye to eye on Noel. But
I
even
like
then,
Noel though.
does his skill set clash too much with Christian Kirk? It's interesting. It's interesting. Then we get to the
Oh
Ravens.
no, no. I thought you were talking about Noel Williams, and I was like, why are we bringing him up here? Yeah, no, yeah, Jalen Noel, no.
Yeah. um. So we took. I have to assume edge. Took James Pierce. We got more bodies in the edge room again. This is just more ammo to compete for a Super Bowl. They signed Chidobe Awuzie. They have Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins. So the secondary, not really a big issue. They even took your guy last year, TJ Tampa. Forgot about that. Um, I mean, they still have bodies on the interior that like Travis Jones and Namdi Matabike don't. They stop me physically from taking an interior lineman because I think those guys are that good. Uh, the guards, it's interesting. I think you signed Hopkins. This is where it gets fascinating because you look at Baltimore and it's just a fascinating built team that you have to get creative with what they have at their disposal. Um, there's not really uh man, like Cam Williams is looking at me just because of their tackle situation. And it's like uh, none of these guys are tackles to me. Like Cam Williams is the
No.
next best offensive tackle, and taking him at 59 is early. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna take. Do you take Omar Norman Law just to pair him with James Pierce? Um, overall, like they took Rose Garden last year, so it's not like
Yeah.
they're going to. Do I play devil's advocate, and what if there's a world where Mark Andrews is on the move and you just take Arroyo? You know?
Yeah, but I think they do like Likely that much.
Okay, I get you. I get you. I probably agree with you there. Yeah.
It's a
Um.
difficult spot.
Yeah. F it. I don't like Trenton Simpson enough. I'm taking Schlesinger.
Yes.
Honestly, I think double. Keep dipping on the defensive end. They spent. They spent like one free agent. Well, two. Technically, two free agents signed on the offensive end, and Hopkins and Cooper Rush. But yeah. So I'm gonna dip into the linebackers. I know they have Trenton Simpson. There's probably someone, Ravens fan is probably telling me like they really like Trenton Simpson. They maybe do, but I think Schlesinger's too good of a player.
Yes, at this point in the draft, I think so.
Yeah.
Um,
Man.
gosh, does Christian Mahogany prevent you from taking a guard?
Uh,
To me, the
I
answer
I
is
did like him, but
I
probably
liked
not.
him too, but I think the answer is no. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, it comes down to two guys, both of them listed at tackle, ironically enough. Um, for that, because guard is kind of the position in which I'm leaning at, and it comes down between I think Jonah is probably a little bit more of like a Dan Campbell guy, but I do have Marcus in front of him.
Uh huh.
Oh. I which way if it was between Marcus and Jonah, because that's what it's gonna be for me.
I
Where
would
do you
I would
take?
lean him Bo.
Okay, I think I'm gonna. That's kind of where I was
It
leaning
kind of
to.
depends
Because
on what you want, because Savanier is much more just he's anchored, and as I mentioned throughout this, like a phrase is like he's ready made out of the box. Where Embo is kind of, you know, he's fascinating. He maybe doesn't have the anchor set to play right away, but yeah,
for that reason, I think I'm gonna go Jonah. I
yeah,
think I'm gonna go Jonah. They're making
yeah.
a push now. They want their windows open now. Jonah again is that guy that's gonna come in and play. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll do Jonah.
Yeah. Um. So, I mean the Commanders, man. Again,
Is there a running
talking about
back
the
here that piques
Commanders.
your interest?
What's up?
Is there a running back here that piques your interest at all?
Uh, Scadabo would be the highest guy on my board at 47.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'm leaning to someone even higher on my board in Arroyo. No, they took Senate. Yeah, they would take running back here. Is there too much of a cross between Brian Robinson and Cam? Uh, I'm gonna take Judkins because I don't
Yeah.
want that ability. I don't want that possibility of too much cross between. You have Eckler as a real, third down player. Uh, yeah, I think Judkins has bell cow potential. So for the record, I do have Scadaboo over, but kind of let's take a different, explosion in Judkins because he's enough of an explosive athlete to be an explosive threat.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean I have Judkins in front of him, so it's push or pull. I get it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Move on.
Bills,
Buffalo
Bills,
again.
Bills. Made it hard for me first time.
So Buffalo, you went safety, and then Tyleek. Do you
Yeah.
triple dip?
Is there anyone before I start thinking out loud? Is there anyone here that like really stands out as like a fit that I'm just like, what are we doing?
Um, like the only position I can think of as like I would want to leave with is a corner, but Porter might be a little early for me.
But
Um,
that, because that it really was.
because there's not really an edge need. Maybe you could get a
No.
third guy in there if you want. Uh, if you want to get a pretty high floor player in Tui Moloau.
Yeah.
I have Birch right over him, but yeah.
I am a Darian Porter guy. Darian
Mhm.
Porter is where my head went to first.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go Darian Porter here.
Okay. Yeah,
I,
I don't.
I I'd rather spend it on getting someone that at least has the potential to be able to start rather than taking, a top 62 pick on a guy that's going to come in and be a rotational edge three at that point.
Absolutely. No, I agree. It's just, I mean, they're all like, it's fun to draft for. It's fun to draft for Baltimore and Buffalo here at the end here because they're all doing one thing. How do we beat Kansas City? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the only words being uttered in their facility. Is how do we draft? We got to draft players that are going to beat Kansas City, and well, Kansas City did it again because Elijah Arroyo's here, so he's going to be taken at 63. I don't know where Elijah Arroyo is going to go. I really like the player, but again, he is a hyper specific skill set that you need to allocate slot touches to. He is a slot player, and nobody's been better at getting making a tight end to slot than Kansas City and Andy Reid.
Yes. See, this is the issue when you have two people that are like-minded. Would have loved to get Arroyo at 64. Um, to me, it is between
Scadabo.
TJ Sanders and Makuba
Hmm.
because safety is still a need for you. And they love taking their defensive tackles. We went defensive line already at pick 34. Um, golly, Makuba
Who did we
seems a
take?
bit
Took
rich.
Scorton. Okay.
Scorton, yeah. But even Makuba seems rich to me.
Would you think
Oh,
about?
and Bo's here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
Bo.
exactly where I was going. You took it out of my mouth.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, and Bo's here. I completely forgot that he
All
was still
right.
on the board. For some reason, I thought he was picking with the Lions
So
pick.
I want to. I don't know if once we end this, it'll like take away the second round. So I kind of want to slow scroll so we can see the entire second round, see what picks we made for your favorite team and why they're wrong and why we don't know nothing about your team. But yeah, taking Mbo here. Oh, it's been so long since we did the first round.
I know it's been crazy.
So that's the first round. I like the fits, man. I think there's, you know, obviously there's some picks that I would make and differently than what you did, but no, this was to finally do a second round experiment. The two of us was fun to do.
Yes, absolutely. We do the first round so much, and not with consensus, but I think it becomes a little bit of a group think with the first round with the two of
Hmm.
us because we are so like-minded in terms of at least the top of this draft. So getting into the second round really allowed us to, I think, show the difference between our boards a little bit more than what we usually do within the first round. So but yeah, that was our only two-round mock that you guys will get out. Again, there's one more mock draft that you guys get out next week. Will pretty much only be news and our final kind of predictive ish mock draft for everyone. But yeah, anything you want to say before we let people go for real this time?